Hello, welcome to Low-sal-life. My name is Sarah, and today we are talking about making a blue cheese wedge salad. Now, if you're new to my channel, you might watch this and you'll definitely get a recipe to make a blue cheese wedge salad. We're gonna make the dressing and put some toppings on it, but if you're new here, my channel talks about food intolerance, and so if you're salicylate or aspirin sensitive, we have a hard time with foods, and so this will just be a slight modification on one of my favorites. So you might learn a few extra tidbits along the way that will help people like me figure out whether or not these foods are safe for us or not. So if you've been dying for a salad, maybe you might get some inspiration from this recipe. This has been one of my favorite salads for years. I knew that I could almost always go to a restaurant, especially when I was gluten-free, and be able to get a good salad that was not going to kill me, and that is still true today, except instead of romaine lettuce, we're using the traditional iceberg. There was one place we'd go that served it with romaine, so we had to stop going there. We won't serve it with any avocado or tomato or anything wild and crazy, and we'll actually make our own blue cheese dressing. The blue cheese has so much flavor, so it is really nice and easy to just mix with sour cream. We're gonna add maybe a little vinegar or kefir or buttermilk. You know, whatever you have in the kitchen, you can probably make something along the same line. So let's talk about hazelnuts real quick. Earlier, I ended up toasting these so that they'd be a little bit toasty, and I also pre-cooked the bacon. So I'm not gonna do that on camera. I hope you know how to cook bacon. If not, 350 in the oven, put a little water on top of the strips so they don't curl up, and then put it in the oven for about 20 minutes, keep an eye on it, and then good bacon almost every time. 15 to 25 minutes, keep an eye on it. So these I roasted at 350 at the same time, the hazelnuts, and I'd say probably about 10 to 15 minutes on them. Let's talk about the levels in hazelnuts. ARPA, who is basically the gold standard for amine and salicylate intolerance, they say not to eat hazelnuts or pecans. Pecans are actually really high in amines, and hazelnuts are moderate in amines. The only time they've ever been tested for salicylates was in Swain's 1985 study. So hazelnuts tested at 1.40 and pecans tested at 1.20, so both of those were low. There have been more studies that have come out, the Malakar et al. Study in 2017. That one retested some nuts, and most of them tested higher, so it is possible that there are bound salicylates in nuts. So I just really recommend that you test them. But in general, hazelnuts and pecans have tested low, and cashews, and all but the cashews have been reclassified as high according to ARPA. So if you're not amine sensitive, I'm not amine sensitive, I would recommend challenging what ARPA says, because the amines don't apply to you, and then you're going to end up having a more narrow diet than you really need to. So I eat cashews. I have an issue with cashews. I can't eat more than like 2 or 3 tablespoons at a time. For the hazelnuts, I might eat like 10 at a time. Same with pecans. Don't overdo it. Just eat a small portion and enjoy it, and just, move on to a different food that is definitely negligible, because you don't need to eat a ton of them. So just don't overindulge. Have small portions, and you should be able to eat these in your diet if you want to have a blue cheese, meal. It'll be good. Speaking of blue cheese, the blue cheese, so you might have been told not to eat blue vein cheeses, that they are higher in salicylates. Yes, relatively, they are higher in salicylates. Blue cheese tested at 0.5 milligrams per kilogram, and so that still lands in the negligible list. It does have higher amounts of salicylates compared to like sharp cheddar cheese or Swiss cheese, but it is definitely less than you would find in, Brussels sprouts or green beans, or probably even cabbage. I need to look up cabbage again. I don't remember what that is, but all I'm saying is that it should still be pretty low. And besides that, Bacon, I don't have a problem with bacon. The one I got today is a Hempler's zero sugar, and they use celery extract, which celery is lower in salicylates, but the extract usually means it's condensed. So I don't really prefer that. They didn't have the normal one with just plain nitrates in it. Nitrates isn't anything like a salicylate, so I don't have a problem with that. So the first thing we're gonna do is get your head of lettuce and wash it. I already washed this and I don't really like super cold lettuce, so I let it warm up. Generally, you do want to serve it really cold. It should be a cold and refreshing salad. So I'm going to cut this into a wedge. And I think we'll start first with preparing the bacon and the hazelnuts. I need to chop the hazelnuts and I need to chop the bacon. So we'll do that first. Got bacon chopped, we've got the hazelnut chopped into smaller, at least halved, if not quartered, and then we have the lettuce. Normally, if you have like a big one, I would say cut it in fourths, but this is actually a very small one, and I'm really hungry, and this is for me right now, because I have been doing a bunch of chores all day today, and it's time for me to eat. So I'm gonna do the half wedge on that one. And now we're gonna make the dressing. The dressing is really simple. I'm giving you guidelines. You can modify it however you want. Generally, most blue cheese recipes are like a 1/4 cup sour cream, 1/4 cup mayonnaise. If you're not making your own mayonnaise, don't put mayonnaise in there because the white vinegar and the mustard and the flavor usually adds to a higher content for mayonnaise, for salicylates. So today's recipe, I'm only going to use a 1/2 cup of sour cream and no mayonnaise because I don't have any mayonnaise. Then in dressings, it's really nice to have a tangy flavor. If you can tolerate a small amount of lemon, I recommend just using like a squeeze of lemon or two in there. I'm going to use rice vinegar today. But since I'm making this as a dressing rather than like a dippable blue cheese, I'm going to add a little bit of kefir, or you can use buttermilk. Now those are both soured milks, so you might not need to put so much rice vinegar in if you're using that. If you don't have a soured milk available to add a little bit of thinning, then I recommend using something like a little bit of heavy cream or half and half or milk, and then adding that rice vinegar. It did pretty good. I put in a 1/2 teaspoon of the rice vinegar. Even at that, I feel like I like the tanginess, but you know, I really like lemon juice better, but I'm trying to be good. I like it. I don't recommend more than a 1/2 teaspoon. You guys can add more if you like it. I know I've never been a big vinegar fan, probably because, you know, it has salicylates. I probably just naturally despised it. But yeah, you guys can play around with the tanginess on that. So I'm gonna plate this up and then I am going to have some lunch. Oh, before too much goes on, I wanted to say for blue cheese, you can go to the grocery store and get blue cheese, whatever. It's, you know, you get like a little tiny package for like $7. If you have a wholesale or restaurant supply place nearby, get it in the big wheels. I got this blue cheese, I got like 2 years ago. I got a huge round of blue cheese. It was a monster. It was probably like 5 inches tall. And I cut it up and froze it. And wrap it up in parchment paper. Don't wrap it in foil. I did that mistake. But wrap it up in parchment paper and put it in like a whole bunch of them in, you know, a frozen Ziploc bag or in the shrink, those like steel meal bags. So for long-term storage, and it freezes very, very well. One of the biggest things about freezing dairy is that it gets crumbly. And with blue cheese, it doesn't matter because you want it to crumble in the future. So it's one of the cheeses that freezes very, very well. All right, let's plate this up and get on with it. I should also mention that you should serve this with a knife and a fork, and it pairs really well with steak. That's all I've got for today. Join me next week. I have a fun one for next week. I think you guys will enjoy. See you next week.